Hey, what's going on, y'all? I decided to go live today. I'm already at the job, getting ready to do some real grunt work. Gotta relight some fixtures, rehang some things, um, and get things ready for this upcoming week. But I decided to actually come on and go live for a reason. Um, and the reason was because Hazel Bandman sent a message or a comment about 6 days ago, and he said he would like to hear my thoughts on the Wilberforce versus Simmons college battle. Um, and so I actually went and did it. I went to go check it out and see what it was talking about. And the truth of the matter is, first of all, I'll start by saying this: kudos to both band programs. I think both band programs are for their size and what they're doing. I think they're doing some good stuff. Um, I actually thought it was a really good battle, to be quite honest, between the two programs. There's a lot of energy in the room. There was a lot of hype in the room. Um, so definitely kudos to the two programs and what they have going on, what they are doing at those programs. Um, but I'm gonna say this, and I may get a little flack for it. I may not. Y'all know I'm at the point where I don't really care how you feel in the terms of my goal is to try to make sure that all sides are heard in the perspective of we hear what everybody's saying on one side, but we don't hear enough of what everybody's saying on the other side. And even still, I still want to make sure that everybody's voices are heard. So that's why I always appreciate your comments and stuff like that. So I would say, put whatever comments you think or whatever comments you feel in the chat. It is what it is. But I'm gonna go ahead and say it, man. I really think that the overblow is killing us. Um, and I came to that conclusion based on the fact that I watched this battle. And I'm not gonna really be before you long. I mean, hopefully the goal is to not be before you long. Um, but I really think that the overblow is hurting us a lot more than helping us. Here's the reason why. Everybody thinks that they have to overblow or overplay or try to play super loud in order to be able to um in order to be able to be in the conversation, right? My problem with that is I put it in a way that in my personal opinion makes more sense. Half of the reason why the movie scene now, specifically when it comes to action movies, are not as great as what they used to be, or from people's standards, as great as what they used to be, because everybody's looking for the action from beginning to end. And it's not sustainable as it relates to what action movies look like. So here's a great example. I like Marvel. Well, I like the MCU. Everybody has really appreciated the MCU, so I'm going to use this as an example. One of the greatest movies that they ever did was the Infinity Saga, right? So, what up, bro? What's going on, Malik? Um, but one of the greatest movies that I think that the MCU ever did was the Infinity Saga, right? And rightfully so. I mean, I think both of those movies were amazing. Um, but here's the problem with that. The problem with that is it was so good that people expected that on everything, not realizing that how it was put together was perfect because there were great moments, there were lows, and then a lot of it kind of left you feeling like, what the heck? There were highs, there were moments where in that movie it was downtime, but even in that downtime, what was going on in that was so good that you could not take your eye off of it. That is what should be happening in the band world, but that's not what's happening in the band world. Now, very similar to what we talking about with movies, People want action from beginning to end. And when they go to these movies and they're watching them, and then there's that low time in there, people are like, dog, this is boring. But see, that's what's happening with band, and I don't think that that's sustainable. This is what I mean. We overblow from beginning to end. Where is the mindset that I'm going to pull something back? I'm going to play with the characteristic sound. I'm going to actually do my best to try to blend, match, intonation, tone, breathe together, all of these things. See, here's the thing. People hear me and others have this kind of argument and think that we want everybody to sound the same. That is far from the truth. The truth of the matter is facts, Malik. But the truth of the matter is nobody wants you to sound the same. We just want you to do what you do, just do it well. And the problem is when you overplay and you overblow, you blow yourself out of tune. Here's another thing that I was thinking about. And this is why I got frustrated with looking at bands online. Because people were like, bro, you gotta go to see them live to get a different sound. You know who I don't have to do that with? DCI. Now, people will say, well, you can't always relate DCI. You know who else I don't have to do that with? Bethune. You know who else I don't have to do that with? Norfolk. And that's not even me being biased. That's just me being real. Here's the reason why. As an AV tech and audio engineer, one thing I know for sure, two things I know for certain, is that reverb can make you sound really good. All right. So here's what I mean by that. There are two videos of FAMU playing the Young and the Restless joint. There's one with them under the bleachers, and then there's one with them not under the bleachers. Go listen to the two videos. I'm pretty sure that the execution on both of those two videos were exactly the same. But the reverb from under the bleachers, because of that, made it sound great. Connection from note to note, blend, and everything, right? And then you listen to them in the other area where they're not under the bleachers, and then you start hearing some of the inconsistencies. The truth of the matter is, y'all fooling yourselves because y'all think that just because you overblow and then there's reverb and echo around you that you sound good. Then you get mad when people say you don't sound good on the video because now the video is showing the truth. That's the problem. I don't understand why we can't say, all right, let's dial this back. Let's actually learn this music at a mezzo piano. Let's actually take the time to see where the counter melodies are. Let's actually bring out some of the actual music. See, I didn't know. Well, I'm not gonna say I don't know. I can't understand or don't know when the time happened where the instruments that were mainly used for counter melodies became main melodies. The trumpets are usually the main melody. Let's just keep it real. But we hear a lot more euphonium and mellophone now, and those are usually counter melodies. Now you can use the the euphonium every now and then for a lead tone or whatever, a lead sound or melodic line. But the truth of the matter is, it's crazy how it just all of a sudden shifted. And as I watched this video, and again, I'm not taking anything from them, but I will say, man, first of all, I feel like Simmons College was better than Wilberforce from a tone quality perspective. Um, but there's so much overplaying that it becomes difficult for me to even listen to, not even just them. So I'm not going to say that it's just the them thing. It's a everybody thing. We are the over. How is that sustainable? And then we turn around and we be like, all right, now we got to get to this wind ensemble literature. And then you try to pull back on it, but then you don't have the quality and characteristic sounds that you want to have. The best wind ensemble for me for HBCUs right now that I've seen thus far is Bethune. Why? Because they don't try to overplay and then try to do something different during wind ensemble. They approach the instrument the same way during wind ensemble and during marching season. whereas everybody else tries to do the opposite. Now, I will also say that I think that Jackson State has a pretty good wind ensemble, but even in that, there are moments where there are some uncharacteristic sounds in the wind ensemble. Why is that? Because they're working to try to do something different as they approach the instrument and as they approach music. How is this sustainable? How is this sustainable? And why is it that we are accepting of this kind of playing? I think that is where my mind goes to. I am not opposed to having a big sound at all. I mean, let's be real. I grew up in the South. I grew up watching Southern. I grew up watching Jackson. I will tell you guys this, till I can't turn blue. I'm pretty dark, so I probably turn purple. But my point is, so I'm not afraid of the big sound, and I don't have an issue with the big sound. I have the issue when you don't add anything else in that, as far as variety, characteristic, sound, tone quality, so on and so forth. And then it's funny to me because I'm not even going to say that most bands don't tune. No problem, Hazel Band, man. I got you. I see everything. I just, I'll be trying to get to everything. But the thing is, what baffles me is, I'm not saying that people don't tune, but I'll be like, if you tune at a mezzo piano, but then most of the time you play at a forte, then why are you tuning at a mezzo piano? Because you may be in tune at A440 at mezzo piano, but then when you overplay, you overshoot. So why don't you just tune at a mezzo forte forte? You have you have more of a chance of being in tune there than you do trying to tune at a mezzo piano. I mean, there are ways and things that can be done in order to fix this, but it baffles me because smaller bands are doing it, the bigger bands are doing it, newer bands are doing it, and I'm just wondering, how sustainable is this going to be in the long run? Because when you really get down to brass taxes, the kids in this band, the ones that are music educators, they're going to go off and they're going to be teaching somebody else's kids the same thing. And the percentage of ones who are looking to do something different, in my opinion, from what I can see from my observable eye, from my anecdotal experience now, the percentage of people who want to do something different is vastly lower than the people who want to try to go with the status quo. And I think that in itself, to me, um, is going to be the more major issue as things go down the line. I was having a conversation with Rick just last night, and maybe it's just a Texas thing. It's amazing to me the number of black kids that don't want to be in marching band anymore. And again, it may just be a Texas thing because I don't know what's happening in Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, Florida, and all those kind of places. But I think everybody who watches the channel, and so on and so forth, will agree that a lot of kids from Texas go to a lot of different programs. A lot of people shop from um, certain programs. I don't know why. Y'all say you can't hear me. Hold up. I don't know why that is. Hold up. That's odd because I haven't seen anything until just now. Um, but yeah, yeah, it says my mic level is good. Hold on, let me turn it up. How about now? Can y'all hear me now? Can you hear me now? Anyway, but so yeah, my thing is, I just want this thing to be sustainable, and I want variety to be added. And I also want. Oh yeah, you just had bad internet. But no, I also want kids to be educated on, um, what to do, how to be great musicians, music educators, so on and so forth. And we can't talk about, yeah, y'all saying it's too hot now. I'll pull it back. How about now? See, man, y'all messed me up. Now I was good at I was good at one point. Now y'all saying I'm too high. All right. Anyway, but no, I my biggest thing is on the music educators, right? We have kids who are going out and they're going to think that that mindset is the only mindset that only exists, not realizing that they have to compete in a world of kids and educators and teachers and programs that are that are vastly wider and bigger. And if you end up in the Georgia area or the Texas area, um, I would also go so far as to say Alabama, where adjudication is a major thing, you're gonna struggle. You're gonna struggle, and you're gonna struggle because you're not being taught from your undergraduate level the things that are important as a program, as a level of as a level of being a music educator, which is the same thing that I used to argue about on Talk That Talk when we first began, right? Do we think about the music educators in that room, or are we thinking about only trying to entertain? That is has always been my argument, and it will continue to be my argument, right? If I am a music educator, because you already know when you go to school, the first time you go to school in undergrad, you're going to take a math class, you're going to take some type of science, so on and so forth. But when you walk in that room, you may be in that room with somebody who is a math major. You know what they're not going to do? They're not going to change the way that they teach and the way that they deliver information just to appease the people who are not math majors. They are going to teach you what you need to know in order to be successful. What we do is we, knowing that we have music educators in the room, try to entertain the masses and do what the masses want instead of actually giving the information and the knowledge that is needed for those music educators. That is the problem. We overlook the music educators, and then when they go out, we can't understand why they can't sustain a band program, why their band doesn't sound good, why their kids don't stay in the band program. All of these things are an issue. Every single one of them. We have to be music educators. And see, it would be different. And I got to say this, and shout out to Miss Sanders for the way she eloquently put that information out last night. If you guys didn't see that from Miss Sanders on her Facebook page, she was really going in on people who had a whole bunch of things to say about them not going to North Carolina, but she said it in such an eloquent way. But I'm going to say it, I'm going to also say this. One of the things about me that I find as a blessing is the fact that I'm a music educator. So, and I was in the classroom for 11 years. I spent 5 years at a university. So I know the ins and outs. I know what it feels like to have students struggle with students, teach students who are under the umbrella of this quote unquote crank culture, and then see kids come out on the other side and say, "Dang, you were right." So I know what that feels like. I know what that looks like. So I can talk from a perspective of somebody who has been in that seat and somebody who is a person who's from the outside looking in. And what I'm telling you is we have got to do better with teaching our kids, our students, true music education in that room. And then when we present it to the masses, yeah, it's cool to entertain. You can entertain and sound good at the same time. You don't have to entertain and overblow. One thing, see, people will be like, well, the Legion play loud. The Legion has a big sound. Legion has always had a big sound. But one thing that I remember Dr. Sanford will always tell us, stop overplaying. Don't blow to the edge of your bell. We're not doing that. But one thing you couldn't deny when you sat in front of us is, did we have a big sound? That's one thing you could not deny. So there are ways that we can do this. There are ways that we can approach it. But people have to make the decision that I'm just not going to follow the status quo. I'm going to step out and do it on my own, and I'm going to do it a different way. I'll answer that in a minute, Malik. Matter of fact, no, I'll answer that right now. So Malik just asked, well, what did he say when the trumpet was going up in the stratosphere? As a screamer at Norfolk State, I'm gonna tell you like this, and Chuck is right here in the Chuck is right here in the comments, so he'll tell you because he marched that year in 2002 at A&T, and you can go check the video. In 2002 at A&T, that was the year that was my freshman year, the year that we played Turn on the Action. This is what I mean by holding you as a music educator accountable and holding your students accountable to sound good. There were 6 screamers that we had that year. Me, Rick, Anton, Will, Picklehead, and J. Ron. Mr. Adams pulled every single one of us out of the stands. And we went behind the bleachers. And he pulled out a tuner, and we had to all scream our G. And he tuned our G. And then, because on at the end of Turning the Action, there's a G that we play right at the end of Turn on the Action. All the screamers play. Tell me that G was out of tune, because we took the time to make sure that we sounded great. It didn't matter what we were playing and how we were playing it. We took the time to make sure that everything was correct. We did our best not to miss on anything. So overplaying, overdoing it, overblowing, all of that kind of stuff was out of the window. And that's what I'm saying. I'm not telling people to be Norfolk. I wouldn't want you to be Norfolk. I want you to be you. I want you to be the best version of you. And that's what I advocate and argue for. Yes, he used a tuner. He definitely used a tuner. You know what I'm saying? And that's a very true story. You can ask Rick. I can bring Anton back on the show. He'll tell you the same thing. But that's what I advocate for. I advocate for us being the best versions of ourselves. Whatever you do, be the best version at it. Don't give people. I mean, obviously, people are gonna talk. People are just gonna talk. That's just what they do, right? People gonna always have their own opinions and whatever. But what I'm saying is, don't give room for them to be able to react to something. And then what you do is you're setting your students up to be able to be acceptable in more than just our places. See, unfortunately, a lot of times, our people, in order to be accepted in other places, have to go in other areas. We have to go into certain places and certain areas to be accepted and people to say, oh, he really is good. Oh, he really does know. But if you educate them while they're in undergrad and you put out a good product, a sustainable product, a product that everybody can look at and say, hey, I don't got no problem with that. Then you open up the door for them to be able to walk in multiple rooms. But if all you give them is the crank up stuff and then halfway show, I'm not even saying that you don't do it, but halfway show your wind ensemble, what are you setting them up for? To go straight into the inner city school and not be ready to teach them, because then they got to build from the bottom up. They've got to learn how to build a characteristic sound. And here's the problem with that. Most of the time, they don't even do that. They put a horn in their hand and they tell them, this is the notes to crank up on. Let's crank up. And I'm going to be very honest with you. I see it a lot from high school programs, middle school programs. So the question is, again, what are we teaching? Overblow is not the end all be all. If I'm listening to another band, it's probably gonna happen, so I ain't gonna say that. But if I'm listening to bands play and they crank up, they cranking up, and then they try to play a crescendo that'd be so out of tune, or they do a decrescendo that'd be out of tune, or they try to play a piano, it'd be out of tune, because we don't talk about the approach of how to do that correctly. And I'll put my money where my mouth is. If you think, I'm gonna say this now, if you think I'm one of the kind of people who just out here talking and I don't know what I'm talking about, bring me in. I'll put it out right now. I'll be that guy. And I'll say it too. I did not stop teaching. I'm just not a classroom teacher. That's two different things. I didn't stop teaching. I'm just not a classroom teacher. I'm teaching right now. I'm going to be teaching tomorrow, and I'm going to be teaching on Thursday. And I am also, and Quan will tell you the same thing. Whenever he needs something, I tell him, bro, whatever you need, just let me know. I got you. Any information, I got you. And even Chuck is in here right now. When I talked to him, I think it was last week, I said, bro, hey, what instruments are your trumpets using? And he told me, and then I started telling him, well, these are the things that I heard. So I am not against helping anybody. I am not against offering my knowledge to anybody. And I'm not saying I know everything. Please don't take what I'm saying and saying that I know everything. But what I am saying is it's okay to get extra ears on your program. We do it. Here's the argument again. We do it in high school. When we get ready for adjudication, we get extra ears on our program to get ready for our adjudication. Why don't we do that for our marching bands during the fall semester? Why don't we do that for our wind ensembles during the spring semester? Think about it. As a band director, and I know this from personal opinion, from personal experience, as a band director, if I get so used to hearing my same band over and over again, I don't notice the inconsistencies. So bringing someone else in does help. It's called a clinician, and it's okay to bring them in. There's nothing wrong with it. So these are all the things that, as I was listening to Simmons and Wilberforce, that I was just thinking about, man. And I just had to pop the mic, pop the camera on before I went and did this work to have this conversation, because it's something that is some it's something that I see, and I want to continue to speak on it because I don't think enough of us are in the mass. That is the biggest thing. And I'm gonna leave y'all with this last thing before I tip out here, because I got a lot of lights to hang and patch and stuff like that. But I'm gonna leave y'all with this. Why are some of the best of us not at HBCUs? Think about it. Why are some of the best of us not at HBCUs? I'm gonna throw some names out there. Latoya Webb. Now, some of these people are Legion people. I'm not gonna deny that. But it's not about the Legion specifically. It's more or less about thinking about why they're not at HBCUs. Ricardo Brown. He was at PV. I'm not gonna say that. Where he at now? Kelvin Jones. He came from Jackson. And kudos to him. He's doing some great stuff. I see he's in real estate right now. Shoot, most of the people that I know who got out of teaching went straight to real estate. I told my wife the other day, shoot, I may want to get into real estate. But Kelvin, I'll name a name y'all don't even know. Jolie Jefferson. And if you don't know him, go check him out. Graduate of Norfolk State, been to multiple universities, was the I think he was a jazz instructor of the year or something like that. Something to that degree. Why aren't the best of us at HBCUs? And yeah, Malik, I can agree with you on bad treatment, but it's something else, because it's a culture of bad habits And honestly, the work that it takes to change that and the ridicule that you would receive, people don't want to deal with. Yeah, it's some bad stuff going on at HBCUs. I ain't gonna lie about that. That part I wholeheartedly agree on. But the thing is, you hit it. You hit it on the head. HBCU band talk mediocre, mediocrity. We're comfortable being comfortable. And that's my biggest thing. Simmons has a unique situation, and I don't deny it. I really don't deny it. I'm not. And that's why I say I think Simmons, from that, from what I watched, was better than Wilberforce. I don't think that Simmons sounded terrible, um, but I do think that there are some things that can be worked on. Um, More so, well, Wilberforce more so than Simmons. Um, but yeah, it's just some things that I know that we got to do better on as a people, as a culture. You say you say we doing it for the culture. Well, do it for the culture. Mediocrity is not the culture. The culture, the culture is some of the greatest things that you've ever seen. Some of the greatest people that you've ever seen come out of it. But how do we continue that if we're now dialing back and being mediocre? So we got to do better, man. Um, Facts. We got to define the culture. Absolutely. I don't disagree with that. I think that we have two different sides of the coin when we talk about the culture. I also think that we have two different sides of the coin when we talk about the band head. I'm still gonna have that episode with the band head versus the old. I'm still working on setting that up. So be on the lookout for that. It's like teaching in Title One schools. You don't get the resources, but expected to perform miracles. Um, yeah, for somebody who taught at Title One schools for 10 years, no, I get it. Um, Resources are definitely a thing. And I'm not going to deny the lack of resources that sometimes you're not afforded. Here's the however. However, teaching is teaching. Teaching is teaching. And I think that is some areas where we miss the mark, is that we let our resources dictate the level of education that we give to the student. I know what it feels like to have a lack of resources. I know I walked in a room before and had nothing, nothing. And if anybody knows, educator out there knows, you start out with theory and you teach your theory until you can get your hands on something. And then once I got my hands on mouthpieces, we did mouthpiece buzzing for dang near 2 weeks. Mouthpiece, um, clarinets, barrel, mouthpiece, reed as much as we could until we got true instruments in our hands. Teaching is teaching, and I think that sometimes we focus too far on the lack of the resources, and we miss the mark on the education part. Yeah, resources are definitely necessary. I'm not going to deny that. Um, but when you don't have it, what do? You still got to teach. You still got kids in those classrooms. You still got to educate them. Um, so that's what I got to say on that. Man, I appreciate you guys. Let's see, before I tip out, we have what it takes. Look at the drum lines, Cookman versus drum lines. That's just to beat the drums as hard as they can. Um, that's more so that percussion conversation that would go a long way with me. Um, and the only reason why I say that is because I have two different sides of the coin as it comes to percussion. And I think that's because I was spoiled by MD. I grew up watching Prairie View. I grew up watching the box, and then I went to Norfolk, and then I got enthralled with what MD was doing and anything close to that. And so my mindset as far as percussion, I could talk all day with that. So, but there's some, yeah, I'll leave it at that. Uh, but no, man, I appreciate you guys rocking with us, rocking with me. I had to pop the camera and had that question real, or had that conversation real quick. Also, man, BTW, blow the whistle. Check out this newest episode. We're gonna try to get the next episode out this upcoming Monday because we had a lot to say about these rankings that are coming out, and I know a lot of people have a lot of questions, and so we're gonna ask them questions right here. So if you didn't watch the last episode of Blow the Whistle, go and check that out right now. Also, if you didn't watch my last episode of the band report, check that out as well. Uh, we will be live tomorrow night. And honestly, we're going to be talking about tradition. Remember, I had the conversation. If you haven't watched the news report, I started talking about tradition as it is in band and people changing the tradition when they come in. So we're gonna actually have that conversation. Take a deeper dive into that, get some different perspectives on that. Tune in tomorrow night at 7:30, 7:30 Central Standard Time, and then also check for Monday for the new Blow the Whistle episode. Check for Friday for Crystal. If y'all didn't watch Crystal's episode on the female drum majors, yo, go check that out. It was really good. It was really, really good. And then she's gonna have current drum majors, female drum majors, very soon. So check that out, man. We got a lot going on in this network. So I appreciate y'all rocking with me. I appreciate all the comments. Uh, um, Anusi left all my information if you want to get in contact with me. Anything that you want to say, any questions that you have, any comments, man, just leave them with me and I'll get to them as soon as I get finished hanging these lights and putting in this audio, man. Appreciate y'all. Y'all have a good one.